Hi, I'm Becca and I'm addicted to media. This is going to be my February 2016 wrap up. I read a decent amount. I didn't finish most of the things that I wanted to finish, but I still read like a pretty decent amount, so I'm okay with how things ended up. I've kind of decided that I'm not going to care if I finish all the books that I wanted to and just focus on finishing the books that I feel like reading at the moment. I know that that's how reading should be, but it hasn't really been for me for the past couple of months. Hopefully I will continue on in a pretty good reading streak. This month I read 5 graphic novels, 2 novels or parts of a series, and 2 non-fiction books. The first books I'm going to talk about are non-fiction. I don't generally read a lot of non-fiction books. I did pick up a book that is more of a history book more than an autobiography, and that book was The League of Regrettable Superheroes. I got this in one of my loot crates, I think in like July or June or July. And I did start reading it around that time, but unfortunately I never finished it. I like to read stuff like this in bits and pieces or like large chunks and then set it aside and pick stuff up. More like a coffee table kind of book. This book is about all the different comic book superheroes that kind of faded into history. They didn't become very popular, or the way that their story was being told wasn't very successful, and so they just didn't stick around and continue to be published. And it's just kind of fascinating to see exactly why the author thought that these superheroes kind of faded into non-existence, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. The next non-fiction book that I read in the month of February was Grace and Style and the Art of Pretending You Have It. I mentioned in my February TBR book that I was planning on reading this, and that I read her original book, Grace's original book, and I really liked her original book. I liked this book, but unfortunately I didn't find it as interesting, and some of the writing kind of rubbed me up the wrong way. There were a lot of creative writing pieces that normally I would have thought were funny, but for some reason I just didn't like them that much. I did overall end up enjoying reading this in the end, and I did give it 3 out of 5 stars, but I kind of expected to rate it higher, and it was just a little bit of a letdown for me. If you want to know a little bit more about my thoughts about this book, I did leave a little bit more of a comprehensive review on Goodreads, and I will leave a link to that down below. I just realized that I did say that I read 2 novels or parts of series, and that's not entirely true. One of those books is actually a novella bind-up from a specific series, and that is The Bane Chronicles by Cassandra Clare, and this is related to the Mortal Instruments series and the Infernal Devices series. It is about one of the characters who's in both the series. His name is Magnus Bane, and he's one of my all-time favorite characters just ever. Similarly to the League of Regrettable Superheroes, I was taking my time going through these because I didn't want it to end, and I really love Magnus, and I realized I could have just read this book multiple times instead, but I just wanted to really take my time with it. So I've been reading this for a while, just reading a couple of the novellas at a time, and I finally just sat down and read the rest of it, and it made me laugh and it made me cry, and I just love Magnus so much, and I just want him to be real. It's kind of bad how much I want him to be real and be my best friend, but yeah, obviously I really enjoyed this. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I don't think I left a very descriptive review because it's really difficult for me to leave reviews or write reviews for things that just I love so much, and I have a hard time being critical about those things, so I don't think I left a very extensive review. My second novel that I read this month was The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second book in the Mistborn trilogy, and holy poop, it blew my mind away. It was beautiful, beautiful writing, beautiful character development. There was one tiny little thing that bothered me a lot, but it was resolved in a way that I found acceptable, and it was actually handled in a way that I found acceptable in the end. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, and I didn't do a Goodreads review, so if you want to know about that, like, leave me a comment down below and I will tell you in that comment. But yeah, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, like what happens and why I was so mad about it. But yeah, I loved this so much. I wanted to immediately start reading the next book, but I felt like I had to read some other books instead. I hope to get to the next one soon, but we'll see when that happens. This was just so amazing. I highly recommend this series. It's so good. Just 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and if I had to rate it by my scale, I would give it a perfect 5 out of 5 stars. Like, even that little thing that bothered me was handled so incredibly well by Brandon Sanderson that no complaints, like no complaints at all. It was just beautiful. The ending killed me, and I just can't wait to find out what happens next in this series. The next set of books I have to talk about are graphic novels and one volume of a manga series. The first of those I don't have with me anymore because I did return it to the library, and that is volume 2 of the graphic novel series The Fade Out, called Act 2. And this is a graphic novel series that is kind of a film noir graphic novel series centering around the filming of a movie. I really enjoyed this volume, and I'm definitely going to continue on with the series. I'm really enjoying the art style, and I really enjoy the characters and the character development. It's just very intriguing. I really love the film noir style in movies, so translated into a graphic novel is just beautiful. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and yeah, I just can't wait to get my hands on the next volume. The next 3 graphic novels I have are the entire series of Alex and Ada, and yeah, I'm trying to like cover up the sticker that comes on the front of the volumes because I did get these from the library, and I'm about to turn them back in as soon as I can so that somebody else can read them because this series was so good. When I first heard about this series, I really wasn't impressed with the plot line just from his description. In high school, I read a series for a little bit called Chobits, and it's a little bit interesting. It's a little bit racier, I guess, than this in some ways, but also not in others. It is designed for a specific audience, and even in high school I did not fit that audience, kind of the young teenage boy crowd. Not that there's anything wrong with that or that I don't enjoy some of those books sometimes, but it was a little frustrating. It gets weird almost immediately. So I was afraid that this series was going to be a little bit more of the same of that, and I straight up just thought that it sounded like the premise was completely taken from Chobits. But that is simply not the case. Like, the overall theme has a lot of things in common, but the series itself was so incredibly well done. It asks a lot of really big questions, and it takes on a more adult view of the situation, and it talks a lot about artificial intelligence and questions what we define as of life and consciousness, and I just found it really intriguing and really well handled. I believe I gave every single one of these volumes 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I'm not entirely sure about the 3rd volume. The last book that I read this month was the first volume in the Ace Attorney Miles Edgeworth Investigations series. I don't want to explain this to you because I could go on and on and on about why I'm rating this forever. So yeah, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Alrighty, so that was all the books that I read in the month of February. If you read any of these books, or you would like to, or are interested in any of them, let me know down below in the comments, and yeah, let me know what you did read this month. I hope everyone is having a great day, and yeah, bye! I have been reading some like YouTuber books lately, I guess, if you want to classify them as that. I like hearing from the perspective of people that I watch regularly, so I really don't see why anybody would hate on the YouTuber books. Well, that's not very nice, Goodreads. The end.